All right, welcome back to the shed, everyone. How's it going? Back for another episode. I think today we're
baby.
just going to talk about whatever. We're just going to see where it takes us. So, yeah, let's get on with
Let's
it.
begin.
Yeah, let's do it, man. How have you been?
Yeah. Good. I've been busy building websites, getting really stuck into CSS, which is actually really horrible. So
Yeah. Did you?
it's much more horrible.
Are you going through the
It's
book?
like easy to learn. A book?
Yeah, you said there was like a book
What
or a
book?
course or something. You weren't sure how to how to progress with it. What have you decided on?
Yeah. So that would be Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs that you're referring to. It's a literal textbook,
Right.
and it's full of like all sorts of goodies for actual computer science. I've kind of put that down a bit now because apparently it's better to just get on and start coding stuff rather. It's kind of like the difference between theory and practical, and they're like, you do loads of practical, mate, rather than worrying about that.
Yeah, encounter
kind of like
problems when you
My-
get
the
them.
advice, exactly, and the advice given to me was like when you can write code, but you're pretty sure there's a better way of doing it, you just haven't figured out what it is yet. That's when you need to read books like that, like the more academic, and really break it down and understand what's going on. So, yeah. But I mean, you've had some experience with CSS, haven't you?
Oh, like super limited. I made one web page, it didn't get hosted or anything, but I just made it to prove to myself that I could, which is pretty
Yeah.
fun. So I know what CSS is, but forgotten all of it and couldn't do anything except the bare basics. So I'd imagine you're way further into it than I ever got.
Well, I did a couple of courses on it, and then I actually started to use it. So for those that don't know, CSS is cascading style sheets, and it's basically what makes in the websites look like fancy, and it's used for all sorts of stuff. And it's not like I don't know what kind of programming language you'd called it. It's like a bit of a strange, like there's not a lot of like logic or for loops or anything like a normal programming language. It's just full of like, I forget what they call them, attributes, I think they call them. So you're just basically telling it, like, make this box blue, make that curved edges, make that move like this. And it's kind of really clunky. So
Sure, it's just giving the page a bit of
Yeah.
pizzazz, and then HTML, for those who don't know, is just the contents of the page. I think I'm right in saying. So that's the actual words, and then you stylize it all so that it's not just a white box with black text in it with the CSS. Is pretty much how I understand
it's quite
it.
hard to make it not look like it's from 2002. as
Yeah,
well. Like,
yeah.
you've got to try really hard, start adding in like dynamic elements that load differently depending on different user actions and stuff like that. It gets really complicated.
It's difficult shit, mate,
Um,
but that's why it pays well, right? If you're very good at it.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
So what
It's kind
kind
of
of...
not what I imagined
fair enough.
with coding, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, but it's one aspect of, isn't it? Right, if you're going to do anything that's hosted on the web and you don't want to use Squarespace or one of those websites, right, to do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what
I've
kind of...
purposely tried to avoid them a bit.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. What kind of websites are you building? Just like random stuff playing around with it, or is there like a project, or is it literally just practice at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm now actually building the string art store. So we spoke about it, I think, a couple episodes ago. And do you remember that?
What
I'm
is...
pretty sure we spoke about it.
Tell me what it is again.
The string art store.
Oh, string art. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sorry, I'm mumbling. Yeah, so I've built a few websites before just playing around. Like I built that cognitive bias one that we were talking about. It's like just a database of cognitive biases. And now I think about it, I built that website in such a terrible way.
Sure, well, that's
I would
good.
do it much better now.
It's better than
Yeah.
feeling like you've not got anywhere with it, I suppose.
Well, I think this is a common experience in coding, but also many endeavors where as you get better, you look back at what you did before. You're like, what was I thinking? I
Yeah.
just didn't know, I
Yeah.
guess. So, yeah.
Perfect, dude. And how's the job?
So I am now a PA, which is interesting, alongside the other stuff I was doing. But it's kind of cool to be around, I'm always speaking with people from the top of the company, from different roles, and people get in contact with me for different bits. And it's kind of, I don't know what part of me it is that I'm channeling, but like earlier I had to just get directions for the CEO, just like you need to get to this time by this time and go that way, and really having to do some like Sherlock Holmes digging on the internet to try and find out when things are, and is that a lit street, or are there like lampshades on that street or not? Lampshades? What are they called? Street lamps.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh
one.
God. So you're properly
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmesing it then.
Properly going
Some
for it.
geoguessr
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. So it's quite fun. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with that. So how about you, buddy? How's Cambridge?
Yeah, Cambridge is fine. Just working hard. I just finished today. I've got jury service on Monday, so I'm finishing. Term's supposed to finish on Wednesday. It's now Friday night, but I'm that's me kind of done because I've got to start jury service on Monday. So but yeah, shit tons to be doing. I've got one hell of a December ahead of myself, and I'm at the moment I'm trying to work out like a routine and some habits that I want to start with like the day I get back, so that I have the most productive December ever, because I'm literally going to take off like a couple of days for Christmas, and then I'm just going to have to work from even though it's only Friday the 29th of November now. I am going to have to, apart from a couple of days for Christmas, I'm going to have to grind all the way up till the middle of January. So although it's a long holiday, there won't be much holidaying going on, I don't think. So yeah, it's going to be tough. But
you know what we should do?
yeah, what?
You should I've done this with Adam a few times. When he's got loads of work to do, we actually hang out, but we just work. So we don't even really speak to each other. He's just over here doing
Yeah,
work.
I'm down. Like a little study group, social study group, except
A study group.
Yeah,
I'll just
yeah.
be here on my
studying.
PC.
Yeah, you'll be studying fucking
So what are your
coding.
expectations for jury service?
Oh, I don't really have many because they don't really tell you anything before you go. It can last anywhere from like 1 hour to 1 month plus. Like it could last a very long time, which would really screw me because you can't like bring electronic devices in, so I can't even work while I'm sitting around waiting for something to happen.
Mate,
But
the attention span.
yeah. So
It's going to grow.
yeah, well, yeah, I hope so. But yeah, it's I'm gonna get there. It could be that the lawyers don't want me on the jury. Like they screen from like a pool of people and then select them to be on the jury based on who they think. Like they get to pick people from the jury for each side to try and make it balanced, right? So the defense lawyer and the prosecution lawyer will get to pick a few people each. So I might not even get picked, which means I'll be done by like midday on Monday. Or I might get picked.
That would be ideal.
That would be ideal. Or I might get picked and then the defendant pleads guilty and then I get to go home.
Yeah.
Or it might be a really obvious case where they're like on camera smacking their girlfriends or something, and then it's just like an easy he's guilty and that's it. Or it could last an entire month if it's really complicated, or longer. So it's completely up in the air. I really hope it doesn't screw up my month, because all of this stuff about planning to have a really productive December will just be completely fucked if I get there and it's like some crazy big case. But it's just
and it can go on pretty much indefinitely, can't it?
It can. It could go on forever. So hopefully not. We'll have to see. But given the court that it's at, I won't reveal the exact location. But given the court that it's at, it's not going to be like a super duper big case, right? It's not going to be like a massive one, because then it would be in London. So, but it doesn't mean it might not be really complicated and take forever. It just means it's not going to be like a quadruple murder or something.
A colleague of mine just did jury service, and he said that the case, he could talk about it because he finished. He said that the case was, he had to do 2 cases, and the first case was a domestic abuse case, and the girl said straight away basically that when her boyfriend was in prison, blah 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 blah, and she's not allowed to say that because it, like, I guess biases the jury or whatever. And apparently she had said that 17 times. So they had to, like, disband the jury 17 times.
What the hell? What's wrong with her?
Yeah. She just kept saying it. I don't know.
I
just trying to waste time. But
I have some buddies who study law over here, and they went to watch a murder case, a jury, like a court case for murder in London. And the guy, the defendant, was being asked questions about having been arrested or whatever, and he was like, "Oh, I've been arrested like tons of times, so like I'm used to it." And they were all just saying like, how dumb is that in front of the jury to be like, I've been arrested loads of times? Like, how to convince a jury that you've probably done it by just running your mouth.
Yeah.
It's like it's such a silly thing to say. But yeah, there's another example of people saying stupid shit. Although what that girl said is really dumb if she wants to get this guy convicted, right?
Yeah, it's not very productive.
Maybe she just wanted to like keep it torturing
Waste
him for like
time.
months and months of just like, you know, keeping him having to go to court again and again. She's just trying to screw him over that way.
I can believe that. It's not very good for the economy.
Yeah, not really. Yeah, that's true. That's taxpayer money, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good point. I am changing the subject slightly. We'll get back to this, but do you remember Ewan, my mate? He was my mate at school, and you met him when we were at sixth form.
I remember that, don't I?
I mean, the story of him is that he's still one of the smartest people I've ever met up to this point in my life in terms of just like horsepower, like mental horsepower. But he's just always been like, he's just never applied himself ever, and it's just frustrating as his mate to like see him not achieve anything. Anyway, he is now living in Ghana. Did I tell you this?
No.
He
Okay.
yeah, he did a
Ghana.
degree in engineering. Don't think it went very well, which I know he won't mind me saying because it was a bit of a car crash. But he got out of the degree, as in he graduated. I mean, say, and now he's got a job as like an engineering teacher in Ghana, and he knows coding, right? Because he knows a lot of stuff. He's, like I say, he's a smart guy, but also he probably had to do a little bit for his course. And since he got there, which was about a month and a half ago, something like that, this wasn't part of his job description, but he overhauled the entirety of the IT infrastructure at the school, wrote loads of code for like, what would you say, like if there's like a IT issue, he set up like an automated system where it gets reported and logged, and like, you know, there's like, it's quite a complex system. He just coded it all himself. And they loved it so much that he's now made all of these friends. He got invited by the head teacher, who's some very well connected guy, because of this work he's done, to this funeral for it was the father of the chairman of the Pentecostal Church in Ghana, which is like a massive nationwide organization, one of the biggest, you know, most powerful organizations in Ghana, because they're, you know, very religious. And he went to this funeral and he just met so many of these VIPs, like people super high up in the government, all these other people in the Pentecostal church. And one of them says to him, like, if there's ever anything you want while you're in Ghana, you know, I'll get it for you. If you want to travel around, I'll book you into all the nicest hotels, all this kind of stuff. So he's like super well connected. But I didn't just want to tell you about that because of the coding aspect. But speaking about crazy girlfriends, he went on a date with this girl, this Ghanaian girl, on like Tinder or something, and it turns out that this girl is like a serial, like, I guess scammer for expats, like white guys living in Ghana, and she's tried to get a whole bunch of them pregnant and all this kind of stuff. She accused one of them.
She's tried to get them pregnant.
Well, she tries to get them to get her pregnant, I guess is what I should say. And
I'm with you.
she like accused some guy of rape who she'd not even slept with, and he got like beaten up by these Ghanaian guys, all this stuff. And so, well, long story short, Ewan, who literally just went on a date, he didn't kiss her or anything. He finds out through one of these well-connected people that there's this girl who's constantly trying to entrap foreign guys into relationships with her, and the guy says the girl's name, and it's the same name as the girl he'd been on a date with. He finds out that this is her.
Uh-oh.
And so this guy, who's
Holy shit.
some like powerful dude, right, calls this girl because she's known to authorities, essentially. He calls her and says to her, you know, I'm here with you, and I want you to apologize to him over the phone and say that you'll never go anywhere near him again. And he was like, and if you do go near him, like, I'll get you locked up, basically, is what he says. And like, he threatened her as this high up guy. He was like, I'll pull strings and I'll make sure you never get anywhere near any foreign guys ever again, basically, if you ever go anywhere near him. And I was just like, God damn. So he's been doing coding and he's been avoiding crazy bitches, basically, is the moral of that story.
Holy shit.
But I found all
Yeah.
of this just the other day. So, yeah, crazy shit.
That's crazy from you, and
Yeah.
from Farnborough to that.
Yeah,
is,
I know. But he's doing great for himself.
Yeah.
He was in the boardroom of the biggest conglomerate in all of Africa earlier this week, apparently, because this guy has found out what about Ewan's work, which is just, hilarious. And now Ewan is like a consultant. Him and his other mate who he's out there with are now getting paid for consultancy to help this guy grow his business, even though it's like already the biggest business in Africa. So this guy has just gone from zero to hero in like a month and a half just by moving to Ghana, which I think is amazing. And it makes me want to go out there and visit him, really, and hang out with the
see what's up.
the well-connected people that exist in Ghana.
Soon it'll be Ewan pulling strings, getting us on.
Yeah,
stuff.
I know, mate. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just it's a funny lesson in,
Yeah.
like, people struggle to get good jobs so much in this country, right? And everyone's hustling to try and work in London somewhere, but maybe you can just move to Ghana and become like kingpin in like, a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's leverage, isn't it? I mean, I guess it's just the advantage of better education, isn't it?
Yeah, somehow.
Probably.
But yeah.
I mean, I don't actually know what the education standard is like in Ghana. I have no idea.
Well, it's not going to be like the UK. I'll put it that way.
Probably pretty different, yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was an interesting lesson in, like, I kind of felt this.
Mate, we should get him on next time he's back from Ghana.
Yeah, man. Yeah, seriously. Well, he's not going to be back until not this Christmas, but next Christmas. So over a year away.
Okay. Well, we'll still be doing it, so we can chat to him. Maybe
Hell yeah.
there'll be some more crazy bitches and more businesses. And
Yeah,
stuff.
well, he's told me he's not going anywhere. He's done now. He's like, I've been on one date with a Ghanaian girl. I've learnt my lesson. I'm never doing it again. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. God damn.
But yeah, that's his existence.
One
at the
person
moment.
ruined it for them all.
Yeah. Apparently.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is, and I think the wider point, I mean, I kind of found when I was in Taiwan, which is a very different place to Ghana, but you definitely get a bit of prestige being a Western guy with a Western education out there. And, I mean, obviously the language probably helped me as well, right? Learning Mandarin out there, but it kind of makes you think, like, if you live out there, even just for a year or two, you'll probably come back with a lot more accolades. And I don't just mean shit for the CV, but I also mean you'll have been given opportunities that, like, you would have to hustle for years to get given in the UK. And so you probably learn a lot because people just want to give you opportunities because they're putting a lot of faith in you, right? So, there you go. Move abroad, everybody.
Are you going to? You said you were thinking about what you're going to do after uni.
Yeah, well, it's definitely one of the options, to be honest. I would, just for a couple of years, I would like to live in China or in Taiwan, depending. I think Taiwan is a little bit easier than China.
I'll come visit.
Yeah,
That'd be
man,
pretty
come out. Yeah, let's do a little China trip or something. I'm kind of thinking mainland because I think it will be more useful long term, given how much is going on out there, but we'll see. I don't really have an idea of an industry or anything. I just kind of want to live out there for a while, make a little bit of money and come back and get loads of experience mostly. But we'll see.
Can you do like factory management and production management, please?
That honestly, that would be incredible. I don't know if I need like an engineering background for that though. Like I don't know if
you can figure it out.
I think I could
Honestly,
figure it
dude,
out.
Something I have learned in the last year is just like you don't have to have done a degree or even necessarily studied. Like most things, it just comes down to like, what do I need to know to do this?
I agree.
And then you read and you learn. And it's like, it turns out to not actually be that. It's not like 3 years of degree. Like just be more focused in what you learn.
Definitely.
Especially,
I agree. I think the only counter argument is that if people think you need the degree, then you need the degree, if that makes sense. And I would say in China...
Yeah, but if you're doing it in your own warehouse...
Yes, yeah. Well, that would be
factory.
nice, yeah.
Or just be good.
Yeah, just be good. Yeah, I think that's all you can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I honestly, something like production line management, supply chain management, something related to factories. I mean, there's plenty of those out in China, right? So we'll see. And more than anything, I just want to get the Mandarin like so solid that like, I've just like I can just turn the page essentially. But I don't want to like I don't think graduating with my degree is going to be enough. Like I think a couple of years out there, just so it's just like rock solid is what I need, and so I think that's what I would like to do.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Oh, I'm already seeing companies that we could start together in some kind of production where you got to be out there speaking some.
Well, if I can help you get at the very least, if I can help you in your ventures to get connected with, clients in, or not even necessarily clients, more like colleagues. If I can hook you up with businesses that will help your production in China, then that will help you, and also, that's a career in and of itself, right? Is being the guy who knows the landscape well enough in China to be able to, get Western businesses to pay me to get them in touch with Chinese businesses, that kind of thing, right?
I mean, manufacturing is the age-old difficulty of, like, it's really not as hard to design a really good product as it is to manufacture it. It depends what you're doing, right? But from what I have seen with all the businesses around me in Birmingham, the ones that are producing a physical thing, if it's not like handmade somewhere, then if it's being like mass produced in China, there's a lot of difficulties that come along. The language barrier is just one, but yeah, it can be really difficult making things to the quality that you want and to the numbers you want, and for it to be like cost effective and whatnot. So it's really being able to master that, and if you know people, yeah, that's gonna help
for sure. So we'll see what we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, that is one of the big paths that I'm looking at. So the downside is that the shed would have to be online, and it would have to be either
virtual shed
early in the morning,
like 10
for you, or early in the morning for me. One of the two.
Yeah,
probably more.
I'm on
like,
a late schedule at the moment.
Yeah,
so
probably more like my evening and your morning would probably work best because it's about 7-hour difference.
Yeah.
So
okay.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's one of the paths, and it gives you a good excuse to get flights out to China, do a bit of traveling.
Yeah. yeah. I'm down.
All right,
I'll be there.
I'm filling up my water, but I'll still be able to hear you. So do some talking, and I'll do some listening. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, you know what I think we should talk about? We were talking about it a little while ago, a few episodes ago, is ego. Diving straight from whatever all random topics we were talking about straight into philosophy, I suppose it is, and like personal development. So I read this book called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. I don't know if you know Ryan Holiday, but he's like the stoic voice on YouTube, so to speak, and he's an author and done loads of stuff. But his book was really good. I was pretty impressed because I've read a lot of his other stuff, and I don't know if I'd like it as much as this book. But I've been really struggling to actually, and this is a criticism of the book, define ego, because I don't think it did it very well. Like, I still am not sure I know exactly what an ego is, but I know that it doesn't feel good. Like, it's one of those, like, fast food. It feels good while you're being egotistical. It feels terrible after, or like the implications of being egotistical just fuck stuff up. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, you're always like, I'm trying to think of examples where you maybe give yourself a shout out in like a meeting or something, or in a friend group. You're like, oh yeah, I'm really good at that. And it's like, feels good because you're like, yeah, the ego. And then you look back, you're like, dude, what a knobhead.
That was cringe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's harder as well in situations where you're getting if you're getting accused of something, like, or not even necessarily accused, but if someone's just pissed off, like not matching their energy and just being like, I'm sorry you feel that way or something, and just being like diffusing it in a way where you still stand up for yourself, like doing that super rationally and without emotion is hard to do.
I mean, it's not necessarily even about not having emotion. Like, the emotion's fine. It's just like, if you think you are, like, I can see the ego creeping in being a bad thing in those situations when someone's insulting you or criticizing something you've done, and you're like, no, I'm like God's gift to man. I could never do that. This is like, I'm too good for this kind of criticism or whatever. Or I don't deserve this criticism. I'm perfect or whatever the fuck. Or just like a hint of that.
Yeah, it's tough. So what are some of the takeaways from the book though? What did you like about it?
There's just some fucking good quotes, mate. Some really good quotes. They talk a bit about this thing called the disease of me. And I think it's Ryan Holiday that wrote this, but he's like, basically the idea that the beginning of us thinking that we're a bit better than others, or we're a bit special, or that our problems and experiences are perhaps a little different from everyone else's and no one could possibly understand us, is like the beginning of this disease of me, and so many people have it. And basically the whole book argues that having this kind of disease is bad, whether you are trying to be successful, you are successful, or you failed. In all three situations, it's just not a good thing to have. There's an argument to be made for some people do have different experiences, but it's that idea of like, I am the only person who's had this experience and the only person that can understand this. Because I've definitely met people that think that about themselves, and it does not help them, for sure.
What are the more subtle symptoms? Because I feel like maybe in an extreme case, we all know what that looks like, but given that we all probably suffer from the disease of me to some extent, like what do people need to look out for?
I suppose it is simply beginning to think. It's just that, like I said, the beginning to think that you are different and special. Different and therefore special. Like, there's lots of lines in the book that, for example, like, the disease of me is an attitude that has sunk far better people, teams, and causes than ours. And it's just like putting you in your place a bit. So, I don't know if I've really answered your question, though, mate. I'm not Ryan Holiday. We need him here.
Yeah. Well, next episode we'll get him on. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder to what extent you and I suffer from it. I definitely sometimes have probably like too high self-esteem, balanced by probably too low on other occasions. But I definitely sometimes feel like, I've definitely caught myself feeling like I'm above people before, right? I think everyone's had that kind of experience before. So, but I only asked that question.
Have you ever listened to?
Go on.
Sorry, go on.
All I was going to say was, like, I wonder if the reason I asked the question of, what it's like in a more subtle sense is like, I kind of assume it's a bit of one of your cognitive biases where it's like, maybe I am really bad at that and don't even realize it, kind of thing. Like, maybe a lot of my behavior would change if I had a really good understanding of what that was. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I listened to... Have you ever listened to Dr. K? That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah?
Yeah, not extensively,
he had this
but I know who he is.
I listened to this great podcast with him in... I think it was with Diary of a CEO. It could have been Modern Wisdom. Can't remember. And he said even just saying, like, I have overcome my ego is egotistical. Which is quite funny.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Thinking that I'm too good to have an ego is egotistical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. There are lots of people out there who think that kind of thing. Like, I'm, I've done loads of spiritual work, and like, my ego doesn't affect me. But what's prompting you to say that in the first place? Right, it's your ego.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good example in my life. Is I love reading. I have lots of different books, lots of different topics. And I want a copy of them. Even if it's like, so my sister lends me a book, I'm like, nah, I want a copy of it. I'm going to read my copy, and it's going to go on my bookshelf. And that is just quite literally my ego, because my ego wants me and other people to come in, look at my bookshelf, and be like, damn, this guy's read so many books. It's just such bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still let it happen, though. Yeah.
I think if we did like long-term online podcasts, I remember thinking when we were talking about this last time, that I would love like the bookshelf in the background. Like I think it's a nice background, but I think part of why I think it's a nice background is it's kind of signaling in that same way that you just described.
It is 100%. Yeah.
It's like, look at how well read I am and how qualified I am to have this podcast. I might still do it.
There are lots of podcasts like that. Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. So another great quote. I love this one. And this actually relates very closely to what we were just saying. Impressing people is utterly different from being truly impressive. Having authority is not the same as being an authority. Having the right and being right are not the same either. I thought that was a pretty sick quote.
That is a nice quote. Have you got all these in your book, by the way?
Yeah, in my book with the Great Wave on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do.
Perfect. No, that is a good one. Read to me one more time. Let me hear those examples again.
Impressing people is utterly different from being truly impressive. I mean, even just that alone.
Yeah. That's the most striking one, I think.
So, I've been trying to understand and tackle this problem of input and output. And I'm sure Hormozy would have some good stuff to say about
I was already
this.
thinking about him.
Yeah. Well, you get measured on your output by other people, basically. Like, oh, Sam's started a business. That's great. Oh, Sam's doing a podcast. Sam's got a degree in Mandarin. But you kind of measure yourself on input, or maybe you don't. But you're like, oh, I worked 8 hours today, and then blah, blah, and I've hit the gym this many times this week. It's all like input. Some people measure themselves on output, like, oh, I've put on 10 kilos of muscle in the last 2 years or whatever. That's probably a weird measurement, but, you know, this much muscle in the last 6 months. And I've been kind of tackling the dangers of measuring on either side, because if you measure input, you could think you're doing really well, but your input actually sucks and there's no output. So you're like actually really not doing anything. Like imagine I'm trying to start a business and I code and that's my input and I just code forever. Like I don't even do anything else. Then I'm fucked. I've never started a business. So, and then equally, if you only measure output, you can't sustain that for so long, because I'll be like, when is my business going to start? And then I spend like 5 years putting input in and no output. And I'm like, fuck, this isn't working. I've got no output still. Give up. Like you're measuring yourself in the wrong way. So I don't know. It's a very interesting problem to tackle. What do you think?
Yeah, it reminds me of like the old one of like not telling people what you're working on, because then you're trying to reap the benefits of output before you've given it enough input in the first place. I think that's people measuring themselves by output and trying to be impressive, trying to impress people.
Yeah.
But not actually being impressive. It's an interesting quote though, because I don't know, like, you know, it's much harder to be, or impressing people is not the same thing as being truly impressive, but there's always a subject and an object if someone's impressed, right? Like, as in, how can you be truly impressive objectively? I don't know, but I'm not even using that to disagree with the quote in the first place. I just wonder,
I guess,
what that means to be truly impressive.
On personal definitions of impressive, doesn't it? I mean, say if you were like a religious, maybe it would be impressive to do whatever your religion kind of teaches. If you like, and then it's not necessarily the output. It's like, okay, I'm doing what my religion teaches me. So, but I can see that falling into some funky traps. But most of the time, if it's a well-intentioned religion, it could be pretty good. And like I know from reading this book, because it's largely based on Stoic philosophy. Basically, an impressive input, say, would be like kind of being good and doing right based on whatever morals you have set out with. The actual outcome of that doesn't matter. You shouldn't let it bother you because you can't control it. It's like the philosophy. So, given like a good example.
Yeah, go on.
Would be, say you try and execute a project at work, and you're like managing this team, and just circumstance has it that the output, it just doesn't end up working, but you gave it your all and you did everything, you worked hard, you were smart, you put the team together properly, and it just didn't end up working, is like probably a good example of, okay, it's not very impressive, but it truly is impressive if you knew the input, if you see what I mean.
Sure. Yeah, I wonder if you changed the quote if you changed it to, impressing other people is not the same as truly impressing yourself, given that people might measure themselves on input as opposed to output. And if you are doing that, which I think is wise, then I wonder if, to truly impress yourself is about, getting as much out of your input as you can, as opposed to expecting outputs to define you, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I actually, surprisingly, it's one of those balances in life where it's like, it's not clear cut. You kind of have to sit on the fence. Sometimes output is a good measurement. Sometimes input's a good measurement. So like if you're in a really long-term project, if you're measuring an outcome, you're probably going to struggle unless you break it down a lot. That was something that Dr. K was talking about the other day, was it's probably pretty common sense, but like making small projects that are really achievable is just way better for you than huge projects. Like you got to break it down, man. But then sometimes it's better to measure purely on input. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I've got a lot of breaking down big tasks to do this Christmas, I think, by the sounds of things. And I agree with it, because it's easy to get daunted, and also really big projects that take multiple years. If you're the only carrot you're dangling is the big payoff at the end, how long are you going to stick to it?
Yeah.
Cool, man.
I think a lot of people can't stick to a lot of things.
Most people can't, man. I mean, I struggle with it sometimes.
Yeah,
more than I should.
think we all do.
Yeah, definitely. So
I think though too, you like the measurement on output comes in where make sure that you don't focus on something stupid for that long.
Yeah, for sure. Like it. Yeah, you can probably get trapped focusing on either of them for too long. Focusing on input or output in different ways, like people pursuing degrees and then master's degrees and then PhDs and things that don't actually get you anywhere, right? But you're just doing it because that's what you're doing. You're just studying down this rabbit hole forever, and it's not really worth anyone's time.
Some people it's worth it, isn't it? But I feel like probably, I wonder what percentage it's worth it for.
Yeah, I would say mostly STEM is what I would say. If you're looking at like poetry in France in the 14th century and you go down that rabbit hole for too long, and then it's like, why did I commit all my time for this?
Yeah. Just go learn on the job, mate. Go be a poet or
I'm a big proponent of learning on the job, to be honest. That might be the thing that I've learned from Hormozy that I have taken to heart more than anything. Is just his idea of like, do a job solely for the purpose of learning. Like, don't even pay attention to your salary. If you feel like you're learning things that are going to make you who you want to be later on, then do that job, and then pull the trigger on earning once you've accumulated all the skills you think you need, and get compensated.
It's that classic quote of "now is for learning, not for earning." Yeah,
I should have just said that.
Don't cash your check before you've. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I actually think that might be the thing that I heard him say that's had the biggest impact on me.
Really? Yeah,
I think so.
And just to add to that, in my experience in the last year, so of finishing uni and then doing odd jobs and just like warehouse work, trying to start a company, hanging out with other people trying to start companies, the amount of times where I've had a problem and it's just been, okay, Google it and learn it. And I've learned some pretty sophisticated things, and like how to use different softwares that are quite complicated, or I don't know, things that I didn't learn in my degree that are useful in business, that are at like an academic level. And I'm don't get me wrong, I'm glad I did the degree because it taught me to like research and how to learn complicated things. But now you do not need that formal education to learn loads more stuff, is what I've discovered. Like, you can just learn it. You can just buy the textbooks. I have textbooks. You just read them. They're great. They're like so dense and full of information. Super handy. So yeah, and then learning on the job as well is great when you have those people around you that can just, they know what you're lacking and they just show you. So
Definitely.
yeah, really good.
The more I think about degrees, the more they feel so antiquated. Like, I can see why, like, in the 1950s, when virtually no one went to university, and if you went to university, you were doing it to become like a lawyer or an engineer or a doctor, and that there weren't that many more options. And it was like, I can see why there was a need for a certificate that said, like, he's learnt these things. This is proof that he is qualified to do this kind of job. I can see why that was a useful thing. But now with the internet and with the fact that the university system has changed so much so that people are just doing like weird like sociology degrees or something that like don't really have any marketable skills attached to them, where it's like thinking that that is the same thing that it was in the 50s. It's just like, I just feel like the system has just been running on inertia for so long, and it's just grown because of that inertia, where it's just like it's become like something that people consider to be so important, and yet it like you say, you really do not need that certificate to be able to do the thing. And actually a lot of the times having the certificate actually doesn't make you that much closer at being good at that job, you know, with the exception of things like a doctor.
Most of the time,
yeah,
doctors are different. Probably a few other fields too, but honestly, it's more of a screening tool. If you can do a degree, like, this is what it's for. If you can stomach it, do a degree. It's why going to Cambridge and doing Mandarin is pretty impressive, because that's fucking hard. So like,
yeah,
there's a lot of degrees that are not that hard. So you're more likely to get more difficult roles, and people are like, oh, if he can do that, he can obviously do X, Y, Z. Whereas someone who didn't, maybe they can't. Maybe they can, but they didn't prove it. So I don't know if they can or not.
yeah.
So,
and that's what I have to tell myself when I'm like, why the fuck am I here? Like, get me out. I'm done with this. It's just like that certificate. It does. It still means something, funny? But it's not.
I mean, to be fair, you'll be like fluent and whatnot. But what would be funny is how, I wonder if you'll even like use the degree certificate at all to get a job, or if you'll just end up being Sam the businessman.
I think the certificates hold so much more weight in that part of the world than they do here. Especially
really?
depending on where the certificate comes from as well, especially. So I think I will use it as a ticket into a job in the first place, and then I'm hoping my achievements will speak for themselves after that, and my skill set will speak for itself after that point. But I would say maybe the first time round it will be useful, and then after that probably not.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, we'll see. It should open some doors. And I'm not really bashing my degree even. I just think I'm more bashing the notion that it's a requirement to do something, because I genuinely feel like if I just, rather than doing the degree, if I'd spent this 4 years living in China or Taiwan and just figuring out the language myself in my own time / out in the world conversing with people, my Mandarin now would be a lot better than it is, if that makes sense. Like, I do think
really?
It would. Yeah, probably.
It would have probably been cheaper as well.
It would have been cheaper, but I still don't necessarily regret it just for that certificate. So it's not.
Bro, you've met so many people as well, and just
yeah. No, I'm not. I don't regret it, but I do think, like, for any skill I'd be interested in learning in the future, the idea that I'd be like, boom, I'm just going to go back to uni and do all that again, that's the best way of doing it.
No.
It's crazy. I would never. And that's why, like, I have so many friends who maybe don't agree with us on this, and who are pursuing masters right now, or they're going into a job and they want to go to like a business school or something, right, and do like an MBA, something like that in the future. And, you know, that's fine, and MBAs are cool, but I don't know, I still feel like it feels like the safe way of going down that route, and it kind of is, but it's in some ways it's not the safe way, because you could probably just get ahead by doing it yourself, and that in some ways that's safer.
I mean, you've heard the term panic masters.
I haven't.
People who finish their bachelors, they do 3 years at uni, finish, think, oh shit, I got to get a job, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Panic Masters.
I thought you meant
2 more years
Masters
at
of
uni.
Panic, not doing a Masters
Nope.
out of Panic. Now I completely follow. Yeah, mate, I'm surrounded by people doing Panic Masters. Completely surrounded.
Yeah, there were a few at Birmingham that I knew as well.
There's
doing that
also
kind of thing.
at my university you can add a year onto your bachelor's. It's not even a master's. It's just part of your bachelor's, and go to and do business management for a year at the business school here in Cambridge. And it's just so, like, if I'd chosen to do it this year, because my course is a 4-year course, so it gets complicated, because I would have just had to switch my last year and do it this year instead. Like, I couldn't do it as a 5th year, but given that most degrees are 3-year degrees, that they're doing an additional 4th year, and say they're studying I don't know, law or something, their degrees will now come out saying law and business management. That's all they're doing it for. But the reason they're doing it isn't for the word business masters. It's because it's essentially just a Panic extra year, where they're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm just going to do another year here and like apply to jobs while I'm studying, that kind of thing.
I always wonder what people learn in business school, like business management degrees and stuff. Like, it's the epitome of being taught by people who haven't done what they're teaching you.
Yeah, it is the epitome.
Surely.
Of that. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Why are you a professor if you're so good at managing businesses?
Yeah, maybe there's a couple super altruistic business people who are doing that, but I kind of doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
hey man,
there's a huge trap with generally with education, where it's people academic. That's not the word, but they make
academize.
Yeah, they overly make the subject academic theory, which doesn't really help anyone. It's just like, I can categorize business in my head better than you, but I can't necessarily do it. I can just explain it better, or put labels on it more effectively than you, which is a weird thing to think that that's useful.
That's what I found in macroeconomics a lot, of just like, it was beyond any practical purpose.
Which I think that speaks to a lot of macroeconomics generally.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Hey man, speaking of Panic, I watched our chess games. Just like, I went through them on the chess app.
Oh, yeah, relive your victories.
Relive my victories, dude. You, like, 2 out of 3 games, you were like dominant. You had like better positions. You're just too slow, mate. Speed up.
I am too slow.
Just towards the end of the game,
time management sucks.
Honestly, like 2 of them, you were gonna win if you had time, you'd have beaten me. So that made me think, fuck, I need to get better at chess again.
It made me think, fuck, I need to play more. I feel like get my time management better.
Yeah, boost that time management.
Yeah, seriously.
It's fun, man. I really enjoy playing the chess. I had a game with Saxon recently with my buddies listening. Like Sean and Calvin were just listening in, and they could see his moves but not mine, like what he was thinking, and it was fucking hilarious. Just them like screaming at him when he was going to move something, and yeah, it would be pretty funny to do something like that sometime.
How does Saxon play? Do you think I could beat him?
Oh yeah, you guys should play. He's he makes a lot of stupid mistakes. He's like kind of like a bit like me sometimes, just making impulse moves and not really looking at everything. Yeah.
Huh.
It actually teaches you to stop being selfish, chess. You have to look at the other person's perspective, and you know,
I don't do enough of that. Get that tunnel vision. I think that pretty much every mistake in chess comes down to tunnel vision. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
pretty much
big,
every
like,
blunder surely.
I can fuck him if he doesn't see this, and so you make the move, and then he sees it, so that fucks your plan, and then you realise how fucked you are because you weren't paying attention to his plan.
It's a lesson of egos, man.
It is. It is. You just want that win too badly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great game.
It's such a good game.
Chess is a brilliant game.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard another quote that I would like to read to you, if I can find it.
Let's do it.
About, maybe I didn't get to writing it down yet. It was basically how, like, an indicator of approaching mental breakdown. Yeah, one of the symptoms of approaching nervous breakdown is the belief that one's work is terribly important. Now, I don't know how many people you've met that are in that kind of situation, like where they think that their job is super, super important. But I feel like there are very few jobs where they actually are. Like if you weren't doing it, someone else would probably do it. So, yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if I feel like a couple of the times where I've been the most overwhelmed with work here, I always look back on it and I'm like, you know, you're not going to fail the degree, buddy. Like, and you're also not going to like top tripos, i.e., that just means, you know, get the best grade in the whole university for your subject. You're not going to do either of those things. And even if you did top tripos, like, how much are you gonna reap the rewards of that in some way anyway? Like, what are they gonna like lay out a red carpet for you or something? Like, do you know what I mean? Nothing's gonna happen either way, and you're not like I'm never gonna fail. But sometimes I think I like rest too much on the outcome of the work, if that makes sense, and on the grade for literally no reason, given that I'm probably gonna get the exact same grade either way, and it will be fine to do what I want to do. So I wonder if that
you know, man, I feel like this is just a symptom of like just the kind of guy that you are. Like, you just want to be good at stuff and do well at things. So it's like the it's like an attribute of being someone who's kind of ambitious and big goals. So I'm not surprised. I'd expect that of you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know. Like, going back to the original quote, I don't know. I wouldn't say I've come close to a nervous breakdown necessarily, but you know, yeah, I do think being ambitious definitely has its drawbacks in life when you expect a lot of yourself. But I don't know. Would you trade it in? That's the other question. You know, would you trade that ambition in? Yeah, probably not. And if you think
comes down to like your definition of what a good life is. Like, if you're super ambitious, you're probably not going to be as happy because you're like never meeting your goals. But then, or like never actually, you know, every time you meet your goal, you're like, oh fuck, I've got a bigger goal now. But then, is the goal to be happy? Probably not, in my opinion.
You sound like Hormozy again, man. Yeah, I don't really know my answer to that quite. Yeah, he says shit like that. I don't really know my answer to my personal answer to that question though. Like, because sometimes I feel like I'm like, maybe the goal is just to be happy, but then I don't even know how that's achievable in the first place, because you can't always be happy, right? I think that's a fallacy. But
well, I'm fairly sure there are studies that I should probably have checked this at some point, that people who say that they think they should be happy all the time are less happy, like just on average, and people who think that they should be happy half the time are more happy on average.
Interesting. Yeah, I can believe that. Don't enshrine your own emotions as the most important thing.
I've been fairly confident for the last few years that being happy is not the goal, and I feel like it's helped me out a lot.
Yeah. But I just wonder, what is the goal then? Because if you live your whole life trying to achieve loads of shit but you're never happy, like, I don't know, is that something you'll regret? I don't know.
But like, there's a difference between being like happy and being sort of content.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm content with my progress. But yeah, it all comes down to definitions, really, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. They're not easy terms to define. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really difficult and age-old problem. Probably.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
I feel like a common pattern for a lot of people like us is to be like the things that bring us, say, contentness, whatever the word is.
Content.
At a younger age, change. Is that what it is? Just content that bring us content. Yeah. Is that change throughout our life? So like, when we're younger, we're like, okay, understand things, build things, provide value to people, stuff like that. And then you get a bit older, it's like family. And then you get older and it's like, I want to leave things for grandchildren and like positive wisdom and shit. And it just like changes throughout your life, like teach people things and stuff. So I feel like that's probably quite a common pattern.
Yeah. I also wonder if, like, is it happiness or is it meaning that you're chasing to some extent? Like, what if you can say, okay, I wasn't necessarily happy all the time in my years of life, but I feel like what I did had a lot of meaning. Like, I think there's got to be a satisfaction in that, because like just being happy is usually not very complicated, right? It's just like, oh, I like saw my mates today and that makes me happy, or I like watched a film and I enjoyed it. And it's like, okay, if that's all that takes and you enshrine happiness as the ultimate thing, then maybe that's the same as living like a hedonistic life, where it's just like all you do is like what feels good kind of thing to some extent. Whereas like if you build some huge business, if you do something that you feel like impacted the world in a meaningful way, but you weren't necessarily quote unquote happy the whole time, I feel like that's something that you would feel more content looking back on than being like, I chilled with the homies and that made me feel happy.
Yeah. Do you not think it sounds horrible to live in that sort of hedonistic world where you're just trying to do the nicest thing every day, every moment?
I do.
What feels nicest?
And also, like,
that sounds fucking horrible.
We've all lived days and weeks in that mode, and usually it ends with you being like, actually in a pretty bad mood, in my opinion. Like where you do nothing of any purpose. You're just kind of like enjoying yourself by like eating what you want to eat, like junk food, and just kind of living that kind of life. And usually you end up kind of hating yourself for it, and then you end up moving on and trying to do something meaningful, do some work. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like,
you know what's funny?
You burn out of the hedonic
to pair
thing
in with
quickly.
that. Yeah, I agree. And the opposite, the flip side, is like you go for a hike in the rain, and then it starts to like sleet, and there's mud everywhere, and then you camp, and your socks are wet.
You get robbed.
And like, fuck, it's freezing. You get robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get home and you feel great. Maybe not the robbing thing, but the rest, you feel great. You're like, fuck yeah. Like, I've definitely experienced that. You're warm again, and you just want to like eat some soup, drink some water, and you're like, fuck yeah.
It's a good memory usually when shit like that happens. When shit goes sideways like that, or you're on a hike, you're like, this is miserable. Usually you look back and you're like, that was hilarious. Like, that was, and it's a good story that you can tell.
Rarely do you look back and think of those hedonistic periods and think that was fucking hilarious and great. You were like, no, I sat on the sofa.
You don't even really remember
fucking Doritos.
You don't even really remember.
Yeah.
It's like a fleeting thing where you're like, that felt good, and then it's just like, yeah, it just feels purposeless. It reminds me of my buddy in Ghana. Like, he never really got out of the gaming thing like a lot of my mates have now, where like he still plays video games like he's in year 10, like I used to when I was like in year 10 or something. And like, he brought his PC, big fucking ATX build, like your one. He brought that thing out to Ghana with him, which when he told me that, I was just like, oh, that's such a mistake. And then it turned out that the Ghanaian like internet or Wi-Fi, for whatever reason, in his apartment does not support any online games or Discord, right? Which is what people use to, do voice chats. And I remember I said to him when he told me that in the first week that he was there, I was like, this is the best thing that could have happened to you, because when you're on your deathbed and your grandchildren are asking you, what was it like living in Ghana? You don't want to be like, let me tell you about this one Rocket League game we had. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is just the most loser shit ever. Like, you want to have stories about being out in the world. So he hasn't done any gaming, which must just be like, oh, it must have changed his life. Yeah. Full detox. I can imagine that would be hugely liberating for him, whether he realised that at the time or not.
I can imagine so too. I always find perceptions of time a very interesting thing. Like how you can have a lot of fun playing video games, and then afterwards you look back and it feels like you were only playing for 5 minutes and you don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
And then you can have an experience that feels you can have an experience that feels so long while you're doing it. Like you're stuck in a lift or something, and then you look back and like, didn't feel too long.
Yeah. I always think that with like
where it
long
feels
haul
like a
flights.
lifetime.
Like long haul flights, when you've been in a plane for 8 hours and you look at the thing and it's like 6.5 hours left to go or something, you're just like, this is
Yeah.
torture. This is fucking torture. And then you always look back on like flights and you're like, I don't really remember it. I think I read my book or something, and that's it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all that you've got. Like, I feel like there's an inverse relationship of like things that happen in a really short amount of time could be a 20-minute story, and things that took 12 hours could be like a 3-second, like, side note sometimes. Like, I got the flight over there, and then I arrived, and then I saw this like thing outside the airport, and it's like, that's the story. That's the memory. That's the thing that you've attached all of these, memories to, and all the little parts
It
that
was
you remember.
snowing and
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But you remember that whole picture, whereas like the shit that goes on forever, the boring meeting, the lecture that was so boring and that no one was paying attention to, it's like you don't remember any of it, even if it was like a huge ordeal that went on forever and ever at the time.
Have you ever watched that Vsauce? Do you know Vsauce?
I do.
Yeah, if you ever watched that time video of his, I can't remember what it's called. Something to do with time. And it's literally what we're talking about. How different periods of time feel different before the event and after the event. And there was also time feels like it goes maybe a bit faster when you're old and less when you're young, possibly. It's like
I've heard
a
that
thing
one
people
before.
sort of feel.
Like it's
I think it's probably true.
to do with
Like
novelty
years get a
or
bit
something.
shorter. Maybe novelty, maybe just there's the theory that it's like a measurement as a percentage of your life. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
like a year when you're 10 is but it stops when you get to about, I'm pretty sure when you get to about 45 or 50, it starts to, like, people just say years feel the same.
Right.
Yeah, probably something like 50, I think.
They
it
all
is.
feel like 10 minutes probably once you're that old. Once you're in like your 70s and you turn around, it's your 80th birthday, you're probably like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was like 2 years.
Yeah,
What do you mean
yeah.
10 years?
Yeah.
Stop fucking with
yeah.
me. But it's the same period of time. It's like the quote, like, time is only measured by the order of events. What is it? Time is only the order of events by which we measure it, or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote. It would be much better if I could remember the quote.
Nah, I get what you're saying. The novelty argument is just that if you're young, everything is new, and you forge so many memories based on novel things happening. But in your 70s, how many things are going to happen that you've not seen 1,000 times before?
Yeah,
And given
that's
that,
true.
how much of it you're going to remember? And if you don't have memories to attach to your, like, if you don't have like milestones and memories to attach to your wider life story, then it just becomes like a subheading. It just becomes like a footnote, essentially.
You know, I really struggle to see if there are any positives at all to memory loss. It
What,
feels
just
like
generally?
an all-around bad thing.
Oh, did you say positives or negatives?
Yeah, obviously there's loads of negatives.
I thought
I
you,
can't,
I
like-
thought you said the opposite. I can't see a single negative with memory loss. I was like, fuck. Justify this one.
Yeah, dude.
What
I
have you
can't
been through,
fucking
bro?
wait to
Yeah.
forget everything.
Yeah, the tortured
Yeah,
soul.
I guess that's a positive. If you've got like PTSD, you want memory loss.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There you go. You've solved it.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, I think cognitive decline is so much scarier than your body.
Oh yeah.
Don't you think?
Oh, it's fucking terrifying.
Well, wouldn't you rather? I would rather lose limbs than like forget huge portions of my life and become like
Me too.
not a vegetable. That's a bit mean, but like a, like if my IQ suddenly like went down 90%, if I was smart enough to comprehend what had just happened, still, I think I would be absolutely like beyond distraught.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah, no.
And I'd fuck you at chess even more.
Yeah, can you imagine? I don't think I could play. It'd be like moving the horse,
Probably not.
moving the knight like a
You'd
queen
forget
or
where
some
shit
shit.
goes and
It's like fucking take your
Yeah.
king off the board and be like, boom, checkmate. That's like as far as I can think it through. But yeah, no, your mental faculties are super important.
So, something I wanted to mention when you were talking about flights, and this actually does indirectly relate into mental faculties, is being bored. and like, it's really good for you. Like really good for you to be bored.
Yeah, I've heard this. I don't get any of it either.
Yeah. You don't get bored?
Well, I get bored, but I'm not very good at like sitting with boredom. Like I'll
No,
pull out the phone.
it's
or
uncomfortable,
something.
hey?
Yeah.
It's pretty uncomfortable. But it's a really good meditation to be bored and just feel what it feels like to be bored. Like it's boring
Yeah.
to be bored, but it's good. Obviously you gotta like do stuff, eat and shit. But like you gotta you can just be bored and do nothing other than that if you want. It's a good experience.
Yeah.
I need to try it.
I think it's like I think that's essentially what like. Do you remember like dopamine detoxes, dopamine
Yeah.
fasting, all that stuff?
Well, that's what Dr. K says. He says look at a wall, stare at a wall for like an hour and just see what happens.
yeah. It's like fully tripping.
Yeah. Some people do apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about in an
Yeah.
hour, but it definitely it's like
Maybe not.
sensory deprivation tanks and all that kind of good stuff.
That would be cool. I'd do that. It's like those what are those salt? They fill them with salt. Is that what it is? A sensory they fill it with salt. So
Yeah,
you're kind of floating.
You're
And then
floating and it's
everything.
body temperature, so you don't feel it.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Oh, dude. That's fucking crazy.
It is
love to
absolutely
do
crazy. Yeah, I wonder how effective it is. I feel like you would still feel it. Maybe. Also,
Maybe
being
a
in
bit.
37-degree water, wouldn't you just like overheat? Well, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. I just feel like it'd be muggy as hell.
I don't know. No, it's probably skin temperature, not internal body temperature.
Yeah, you're right.
Surely.
Yeah, you must be right. Yeah, sure, man. Well,
I don't know.
get out to Japan with me because that's my 100. I went there this year and it's by far the coolest place I've ever been. And I didn't realize I was that
For
guy.
what? For
It was while I was while I
sensory
was
deprivation.
no. Well, yeah, it's all linked.
Being bored.
For sensory deprivation, but not even really that. I'll get onto it, but I went there this year and I didn't realize I was that, like, I feel like usually people who love Japan are a bit cringe, but then when I got out there I was like, okay, I fucking love Japan. Like, I don't like anime, I don't read fucking comic books, but I love Japan. And one of the things I did there, something called an onsen. If you look it up, ONSEN, I wonder if it'll come up exactly with what I think it will. It's basically it's like, you know, the Roman baths where they go in like the hot pool and the cold pool and all that kind of shit in Roman times.
Yeah.
It's basically the Japanese still do that kind of thing. And
Okay, I'm looking at one right now. So it's like a rock bath, and they're wearing the like straw hats that are like pointy.
that's a little too stereotypical. Look up like onsen room.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Onsen room.
yeah, mine was not glamorous. All the ones that come up here look like they're in like 5-star hotels, but
They look bougie as hell.
Yeah,
Some of them are inside.
Mine was not bougie at all, but it was. I was in a capsule hotel. Do you know what those are in Japan? Have you heard about those?
Oh yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, you just
They're
get
pretty
like
sick.
you get like a little coffin to spend the night in, and anyway,
Coffin. Remind you of your mortality.
yeah, well, or of your claustrophobia. That's the other thing it might remind you of if you suffer from that.
Are you claustrophobic?
No, not at all. But if I was, I'd be freaking out. Like, it was really small,
Yeah.
and like you have to like slide in and out, and then there was this tiny, you know, like a cathode ray tube TV, like the really big thick ones that like zap you if you touch the screen from like before we were born. Like, I had one of those in the room, like by my feet, and as you got out of the room, you had to like slide past the TV, and the TV just had like Japanese sitcoms on it that I didn't understand and all this shit. But anyway, in the hotel was I went for a shower before bed. I got there, and in like there was like a locker room where people like brushing their teeth and shit in the sinks, and everyone was naked, and I was just like, this is a little bit unnecessary, guys. Like, I felt like, okay, fine, if you don't want to, like, you know, if you don't want to be embarrassed, then that's fine. But why is there like 12 naked people in here? And
all dudes.
All dudes. Yeah, it was a male only. Yeah, it was a male only bathroom. And
thank the Lord.
Yeah. That would be a bit far. But anyway, I went into the shower room, and when I opened the door, like this huge, like gigantic cloud of steam just like hits me in the face, and I can't see anything in the room. I'm like, what the hell? So I walk in, and there's just like 40 naked men in there, and I'm like, oh shit, I see what this is. These aren't shower cubicles. So I strip off and I go back in, feeling a little bit awkward at first, but kind of faded away once I realised I was.
What, with your dick out?
Yeah, yeah, completely. Everyone was butt
Full on.
naked, but there's something unifying
It's
about.
so alien for us Brits.
It's so alien. And some of my buddies went to Japan separately to me in a group. I just went with my girlfriend, who obviously wasn't there, given that it was male only. But they went in a group and they all just had to strip off together and just own it, basically, which I've not done with my
We'd have
mates
to do it,
before.
buddy.
Yeah, we'd have to do it. But
Whoa.
Anyway,
That'll be a new level on the shed.
it would be an onsen episode. We're all just in like this big room together.
Maybe we should rename it.
What, the onsen? Yeah, we're just naked on
Yeah.
camera for the episode.
The sauna.
Tiny little blurred out section. But anyway, so I go in, I'm naked, and everyone is sitting on tiny little plastic stools that are just like a foot off the ground, if that. All shoulder to shoulder, like virtually touching shoulders, with a sink in front of them and a shower head. And you just have to shower while sitting on this stool next to all these guys with the shower head, just like holding the shower head over your head kind of thing. And I was like, okay, this is pretty grotty, but I'll do it. So I did that, and then I realised there was a sauna and a cold plunge pool in there and a hot tub. There were like all these big baths, which are like the ones that come up in these photos. And the sauna was 100 degrees Celsius. They had a temperature gauge on the wall. And the cold plunge pool was like 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. And I just spent
that's
like
a pretty big difference.
an hour and a half just going in between the sauna and the cold plunge pool. And I've literally never had my brain be so empty in my life. It was literally like doing an hour and a half of meditation, where it was just like,
Really?
I've broken the fuck through here. Like, it's just crazy. So bit of a
That's so
tenuous
sick.
link to sensory deprivation, but that's like the most spiritual experience I've had. It actually, the bad ending to this story is, I was in the cold plunge pool for ages. I've been talking to these two American brothers. They're in like their 30s, just chilling there naked. I was like, this is a weird way to meet people, right? Just sitting in like a sauna or a cold plunge pool, these guys. Anyway, and I was chatting with them. Luckily, they'd just left because I went into legitimate cold shock, which I didn't realize that's what it was. But I went from being like, I have zero thoughts right now. Like, I couldn't have any fewer thoughts in my head. Like, it was kind of creepy because it was like, I just can't think, but in like a good way, not in like a kind of, not in some sense that I'd been like, what's the word? Like,
Zombified.
Anesthetic or some shit. Like, it just felt like
Right.
my brain is so peaceful. It went from that, and then suddenly I just had this thought of like, maybe the reason I'm having absolutely no thoughts is because my body has started dying, which is like some acid ass thoughts. Like, it's like going into a bad trip or something. And
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, I am dying. And suddenly I just went from like complete and utter like serene bliss to just like, I am actually going to die. My mind starts racing. I'm seeing like my family, all of this shit. I'm completely freaking out. Luckily, I didn't make a scene. I was like, I had just enough of like I had just enough like thoughts left to like not make a scene. But I got out and I'm just standing there naked in this room, just like, fuck, I'm about to have a heart attack or something. Anyway, 10 minutes later.
Holy shit, dude.
It
This is a crazy story.
It was crazy. My mind was fucking racing with just like thinking about everyone in my life, just like,
That must have been pretty intense.
It was so intense.
Yeah.
And then anyway, 5-10 minutes later, I was about to say cool off, but I guess warm up is more like the phrase. I went back in the sauna because I was like, I need to just like rewarm myself a little bit. Went in there for like a minute or two, and then I was completely fine. And then afterwards, I was reading about it, and it was just like everything. When I read about cold shock online, it was just like all the symptoms. I was like, check. Like, I just spent too long in the cold
Really?
plunge, basically.
I want to see it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
Cold. Was it cold?
Cold shock.
Right. I'm gonna tell you the symptoms, buddy. You want to know them?
Yeah.
Gasping for breath,
Yeah.
rapid breathing,
Yeah.
increased heart rate and
Yeah.
blood pressure,
Yeah.
dizziness and confusion. You're probably confused, mate. You're
Yeah,
probably serene and then just fucking confused.
I just let
Reduced
my
ability to hold breath.
yeah. It's what people get if they like fall through a frozen lake or something. But the I think I was
Huh.
reading about it
Did
on
you
like,
have cramping?
Reddit or something. I don't think I had cramping. I think I was just reading about it on Reddit about someone's experience spending too long in a cold plunge pool. And they were
Damn.
like, that was when it got diagnosed as cold shock, and he was explaining it, and he was talking about like the fucking panic that he had, and I was just like, damn. Like if this is what people with like severe anxiety feel like on like a weekly basis, that is
Yeah, holy
really
shit. That's
awful.
such a good
Yeah.
that's such a good like comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it really hard to like empathize with what like I just don't know what it feels like to
Yeah.
be
I'm
super
the same.
panic
I'm the
attack
same.
anxious. Yeah,
Yeah.
well now you know.
Yeah.
eh? Yeah.
No, it was full on, and all I could hear was my heartbeat like thumping in my ears, which I think was a mix of the cold water exposure and also the panic, right? Like the adrenaline. But it was just funny because I went from literally the most extreme state of like serenity I've ever felt to the most extreme state of just complete panic. And then
Maybe
5
you
minutes
should
later,
just,
I was back to baseline.
You should have just got back in the sauna, bro.
Yeah, that's pretty
Warm
much what
up.
I did. That's pretty much what I did.
Oh, really?
I
okay.
gave it
Yeah,
5
nice.
minutes, and then I went back in the sauna. And then I think I went back
Huh.
in the cold plunge pool. I just like chilled
You
a little
fucking
bit.
maniac.
Yeah, I just chilled a little bit.
Yeah, you wanted to hang out with the naked dudes,
Yeah,
that's why.
that's what it was. Yeah, we were talking about like Kanye or some shit, and I was like, I can see both of your dicks and your brothers, and I don't know your names. Like, this is it's a little weird way of meeting someone, but you know.
Yeah, it's just so weird for British people.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I like if you go to Finland, it's fucking normal.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I've seen all my mates' dicks.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't
yeah.
really care about it.
It is weird, but
Yeah.
to be honest, it was only
Look, I don't know.
uncomfortable for like 2 minutes because
Is it weird to like from our end though? Do they think we're weird? Like, oh, you think that your dick's so fucking
yeah,
special?
they probably
that
think
no one can look at
yeah,
it?
they're probably like a bit gay, bro. Like it's just you know what I mean. Like stop
It's
deeping
just a
it.
dick.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Stop making it into a
Stop
thing,
deeping
and then it's like, you know, it's not a thing, which is true. And it really wasn't awkward for very long because, everyone else is naked there, right? And you see people come in and like they're looking around and like they like dive over to like the stool and go and sit down, so they're not just standing in front of everyone when they walk in, just naked. But then after
Is
a
it
while,
like,
you're just completely unaware.
Is it like a pub in Red Dead when you like walk in, everyone turns around?
Yeah, well, that's what it feels
Who's
like.
that?
I don't think it's like that at all, but that's what your brain's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mate,
social anxiety to the max.
There
I
you
feel
go.
like there's a lot of people wouldn't go in there.
I've just sent you a
just for that.
photo of what the showers look like. This is like a much, much, much bougier version of what I had. There were no like privacy screens, and everyone was way more packed
Oh yeah,
in.
I'm looking at it.
The
So
materials.
it looks like it looks like a hairdresser's
Yeah, kind of.
basically.
But
And what are they on the stool?
I
That thing.
I don't know. It might be a bucket to pour water over your head because it just goes onto the floor.
Oh yeah, it's like a little circular basket thing.
Yeah.
I think
But to be honest,
you got
that's
some shampoo.
the
Mate,
only-
at least there's dividers between them.
Yeah, I didn't have that, and they were tiny plastic schools, much lower to the ground than that, and they were much more packed in together, and it was just one big mirror, like a gym mirror, on the wall that everyone was looking in.
Oh
But-
wow! So the photo Sam sent me has mirrors, and they're individual booths with a shower head, a little stool, a basket, and some like shampoo, a
Mm.
light, and yeah, a mirror.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
that's much nicer than what I had. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could find a better one at some point, but it was really something. It was really an experience, and yeah, it was just funny because that's two of the most extreme of experiences I've had, and they were just diametrically opposite, and they literally like followed on from each other, like immediately. Like it was crazy. But I would 100% do it again.
Intense. How did you feel like 2 hours after that experience?
So relaxed.
Were you
just
pretty chill?
unbelievably relaxed.
Really?
Yeah, to be honest, I got
Huh.
out at like midnight, so I was quite tired, but I just, you know when you get out of like a
Maybe
hot
you
shower or
died.
something, and you're just like, I am about to pass out. Like, have you ever had that before in the evening where you have a hot shower, and then you're just like, I'm so ready for bed.
I just don't shower that hot, bro. People shower so hot. I can't do it.
Yeah. Fair.
I normally don't go past the like clicky button thing on the shower.
Fair enough. You're a moderate shower.
Yeah, I'm a
kind of
pussy.
guy. Yeah.
I am a
Do you
moderate
have-
shower kind of guy.
Do you have cold showers at all? You into cold showers?
Yeah, I do. I I have cold showers every now and then. I tried. I actually stopped doing it so much because I read a study about talk of gym about it being bad for muscle hypertrophy. Like you shouldn't do it after you work out.
You shouldn't do it after
Was
you
it
work
before
out.
or after? I'm pretty sure it's after.
It's after. Before, it's actually meant to make you marginally stronger. But that's Andrew Huberman being like 0.1% stronger, probably. Do you know what I mean? It's probably not big.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably best to just do it completely unrelated to your work. You probably do it before a different time. Like, do your cold shower in the morning and do your workout at like 3 p.m. or something.
Yeah, and then just have a normal shower afterwards.
Yeah.
Get the sweat off you.
In a way, I've actually kind of stopped giving a shit so much about gym. Speaking of gym, like I've made my workout routine really nice, and like I've mastered the exercises, but I'm really not too bothered about getting super wham like I used to be.
Yeah, getting PRs or getting wham, that kind of thing.
Yeah, just not as important.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've done enough of it where it will impact your frame for the rest of your life, kind of thing. Like you'll probably never be like a skinny bitch, and you'll probably. I mean, you could obviously get fat and you could get super skinny, but you're probably not going to do either of those things, right? Like you're probably just going to maintain the majority of what you've built now, and you'll be glad when you're 50 or 60 that you've got a bit more muscle on your frame than other people.
Yeah, like obviously you still got to look after your body. I still intend to do that. But what I'm saying is like I work out like 3 days a week and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Like I used to work out a lot more than that. Now 3 days, I'm like, this is good. Good rate. I've got time to do other stuff. It's just like gets me in gear. But every now and then I get frustrated and I'm like, oh, I haven't pushed hard for ages. And I went to MMA yesterday. I went to Yuki's class and it was too easy. I actually was like, fuck, not enough cardio. So last time this happened to me, I went and did a 10K. And if you know me, I fucking hate running. So 10K was nuts for me. Yeah, normally a good set of cardio would be like a wrestling class followed by a martial arts, like mixed martial arts, or a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class is pretty intense as well. They can be pretty cardio heavy. I'm definitely getting to that point soon though, mate. I'm going to do a 10K, impromptu 10K. Yeah.
I got into swimming laps when I was in Taiwan. We didn't do loads of it, to be fair. So I got into it. I could have done it a lot more, but that felt like a great form of cardio because there's no impact on your knees or anything, your ankles. It works your upper body, and I thought I was going to chun in the pool the first time I did it because I was going for it for like 45 minutes. Yeah.
I've done this before, nearly throwing up from it.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible swimmer, so...
Yeah, I'm not good at it either.
I've heard it's a very good support exercise for bodybuilding. It's like the best one.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, be nice to those joints. That's what worries me a bit about all the martial arts I do. Like, it's a lot of impact. Like, a lot. So, that's why I try not to do it so much. Yeah. But I think it's important to be able to fight.
Yeah.
So...
I really want to do more of it. It's one of those skills that I'm hoping I will be able to dedicate years to once I get out of uni.
Yeah, you just have to put the time in. You have to, like... You only have so much time in a week, and you have to just commit if you are going to. I want to get better at the groundwork, so we could do that together if you wanted.
I think I'd like to do MMA, just and kind of
do it. Come join Yuki's class.
Yeah,
he's great.
I'll do some over Christmas with you.
Yeah, we should do it.
I'll come down
as soon as you're back. I went with Saxon yesterday. And it was good fun. Apart from Saxon kicked me in the balls.
Oh, really?
I wasn't wearing a groin guard yesterday, so I should have.
Oops.
Should have won that one.
Surely.
Yeah.
It was a mistake, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, fuck you, Saxon.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm pretty sure I punched him in the face straight after.
Good.
So.
Would he be willing to come on?
He said he'll come on the podcast, and my buddy Charlie.
Yeah.
Said he'd come on.
Awesome.
Who's done some nuclear stuff, and you know him, don't you?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I haven't spoken to him in years, but it'll be it'll be cool.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
I normally see him every Christmas, so it'll be nice.
I didn't realize you were that close to him.
Yeah. I mean, we were close at school. We were school friends, and now we just go to the pub.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Christmas.
I kind of thought you meant he was like a family friend or something, but it's just a school buddy.
Oh no,
Yeah.
No, not like Christmas Day. Yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
but yeah, we
nice.
can organise a date and time for that. And I had a lot of people say that they didn't want to come on, which is fair, totally
Yeah.
fair. I feel like
Who said no other than who we discussed
it was
last
just
time?
it was literally just Braybrook and Ollie Mitchell, Rambler.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's fair. To be honest, I didn't really expect them to come on in a way.
Yeah.
I think
what was Rumbler's
hard for people
reasoning?
to know. He just said it's not his thing and he's busy.
Fair
So,
enough.
which is fair. Like, I think, like, truth be told, it probably isn't their thing. But it's kind of hard to say to people, like, dude, it's literally just a conversation. We just chat. We hang out. We're not trying to like push a message or anything. We're just talking. Like, it literally is. That is all it is.
Yeah. What would make him an interesting guest? Because I don't know him very well. That guy, I've only met him once. So, does he have like a? Is there like
He's a
topic?
physicist,
Okay.
and he knows some shit that's pretty cool. Like, I
Yeah.
really wanted to talk to him about like philosophy, space, and maybe we could get into some physicsy shit, like you know, I don't know, more engineering side of physics stuff,
Yeah.
or maybe electronics or whatever would be cool to learn about. So I was quite looking forward to doing that with him. But look, if he doesn't want to do it, doesn't want to do it.
No,
So
that's
there'll be
cool.
more people. The best guests will be the people that want to do it.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we just need to really sort our branding out, buddy, because that will make it probably a lot more appealing. If we don't, you know, it's so rough around the edges at the moment, and we really just need to put some time aside and think about it. Maybe we should actually skip a podcast and just spend the time dedicated to creating, or we
Sure.
could do it on the podcast.
Yeah, I say we just roll the
Um,
mics and just talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, we're taking the approach of building 100 vases so hard, like literally.
Yeah, we're building
are
some
the
shitty
epitome of-
vases. Yeah.
Yeah, we're building some dog shit ones, but that's good. It's all good with me.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
enjoying it anyway. It's good to listen.
I
Yeah.
think my instinct is that business and philosophy are the topics that we're most natural with as a pair. That we could be like, this
Yeah.
is the thing, and
Think of all the walks we've been on where we talk about that.
that's what we talk about mostly.
So many.
I think that's the most,
Yeah.
and I think we go with that, and I think that's how we advertise ourselves. But I don't think that we have to restrict ourselves to that. Like, I don't think we have to feel bad if we spend an entire episode talking about something else,
Sure.
because
And philosophy turns into everything at the end of the day.
it does. It does.
So-
It completely does. And also, furthering that, I mean, think about all the podcasts that claim to have a theme. Like, if they're big enough, they have guests that are unrelated anyway.
Yeah.
Diary of a CEO, we discussed that last time, I think, doesn't have that many CEOs on. Has plenty of CEOs on, but it doesn't just have CEOs on.
Yeah, it has all sorts
So,
now, hey. Yeah.
Not that we're anywhere close to that level, but you get my point. Like, I don't think we have to constrain
You know what's kind of mad,
ourselves
though?
that hard.
Just an aside.
Yeah.
I have now access to the CEO's diary in my job, and it's
Cool.
fucking mental. Her diary is nuts.
Really?
Bro. Yeah, seriously, crazy. Like,
How so?
we book in, like, I have to keep booking in, like, 5-minute breaks for her, so she can just, like, go grab a coffee
Yeah.
and go to the toilet and stuff. Like, that's how rammed her schedule is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, someone wants to meet you, and it'll be like, okay, I'm free next year. So booked up.
Oh, that kind
it's
of diary.
nuts.
You mean? I see what you mean. I
Yeah.
thought you meant like an actual diary.
Oh, no, not
Oh,
like
that's a bit
the...
weird.
I guess that's what Diary of the CEO is. This is calendar of a CEO.
Yeah, understood. No,
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that, because in hindsight, it couldn't have been what it was. But
Yeah, no, I don't have access to her personal, like, journal. That would be kind of weird.
that's what I
probably.
thought you meant. I was like, that's pretty crazy actually that she would give that to you. Like, yeah, write a diary entry for me.
Yeah. This is how I'm feeling today. Can you write this down?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be...
Write a diary
Yeah.
entry about my failing marriage or some shit. You know. I don't know.
No, I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they are. I don't know anything. But, you know, that's not like
Yeah.
for anyone that hears that. There's not been any gossip.
Anyway, going back to talking about our branding, I agree 100%. This is good progress. We should talk philosophy and business,
Yeah,
and then whatever we want, but like just brand it roughly around that,
yes,
and then whatever we want.
yes.
Did you see the videos I uploaded? I've made some I made thumbnails for
Yeah,
porn
I
stars.
saw them. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
it's
can
cool.
definitely be better. I just whacked some images
Yeah,
on there.
who cares
but,
right now, man? It's not a big deal at the moment, is it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I'd be tempted to do is go on Fiverr and be like, "This is what we're doing at the moment. Can you just like make something way better
Yeah,
based
yeah,
on this
yeah.
and this, and just
Yeah.
see what they come up with?"
I'm
Like,
sure
it's not
it'll
going
be
to
really
cost
good.
that much. Maybe
Yeah.
we spend 40 quid or something on it, and then there you
Yeah.
go, bish bash bosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
sounds
yeah,
good.
I'm
All
very
right,
down.
man. Should we
Let's do
wrap
that.
this up today?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I thought that was good. All right, mate.
Yep.
All right. So, everyone, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned for more philosophy and business chat.
All right. See you later.